Yeah, I think we're live. We're live.
Yeah.
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 Hello, Lee Hayward here. And introduce yourself.
My name is Hayward.
Hayward. You got the giggle, guys. And who else is joining us? Who's that guy?
Jeff.
It's Jeff. All right, so it's Lee Hayward, Harvey Hayward, and Jeff. And who else? Who else? Who's this guy?
And Teddy.
And Teddy. All right. Okay, so we're getting ready to see if this is coming through loud and clear. If it is coming through loud and clear, let us know in the comment section. Just going live here now. I want to make sure that the audio and the video, so if you can see Harvey and Teddy bouncing in the background and you can hear me talking, that means it should be coming through loud and clear. All right, Lee is saying it is coming through loud and clear. Good stuff. Awesome. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. All right, so welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chat for Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th. It's a spooky day, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the day when.
Who's the spooky guy who's did all the Friday the 13th movies?
Jason!
Yeah. All right. Okay, I think we're going to have to settle you down, dude.
Okay, let's go down. Don't worry. Where's my spot?
All right. You're going to get bored with this very soon. But yeah, welcome to the Friday the 13th video chats. So today, as always, what we're going to do is hang out here for the next hour-ish, answering questions and topics of discussion that you have related to fitness and nutrition, building muscle, losing fat. What else?
Stinky muscles.
Building stinky muscles, he says. Well, hopefully the muscles don't stink. If we get a shower after our workout, our muscles aren't going to stink. All right. Here, listen, Giggle Gas. You want to go out and play with your mother for a while? Can I?
Okay, I'm going to not be silly anymore.
He's going to be serious, yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's not going to work here. Look, I'll come out and play with you after. I'm going to do my video chat.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Bye. All right. Teddy's saying bye. Halt through the door when you're done. All right. He's not going to halt through the door. All right. Just give me a sec. All right. He is going to halt through the door. Thank you. Slam the door. The joys of kids. This is what you got to look forward to, Jeff.
Can't wait.
Oh, yeah, it is fun. It is absolutely fun, but it's like schedule, productivity, all that kind of stuff, that can go out the window sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all good. It's all good. So anyway, guys, welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding video chats. Lee and Jeff here. So we're going to be hanging out here for the next hour, answering questions and topics of discussion that you have related to fitness and nutrition, any specific challenges regarding your workouts, building muscle, losing fat. Feel free to type those questions and topics of discussion into our chat, and we will take it away. So let's see. Hopefully everything's coming through loud and clear. It is good. And let us know where you're tuning in from. Just curious to see, if we have any regulars or any new people joining in. Obviously, there's some regulars. I recognize the names. But if you're brand new, want to welcome you. It's always nice to have new people joining into our video chat. So how are things going with you, Jeff? How's your New Year's fitness routine going so far?
Great. Yeah, it's been going really great. I've been really enjoying my new calisthenic program, and I've been making a lot of progress with all the new exercises and workouts that I've been doing. So I've been really enjoying it. I've been working out 6 days a week.
Nice.
Since I started it up. Yeah. Which has been great. So it's been demanding and challenging, but I'm having a lot of fun doing it too.
So is this 6 days a week of doing that calisthenics program? Or
because a lot of it's like skill based, and there's a lot of mobility work in it as well. So there's always something that you can do every single day. So it's not necessarily like hypertrophy work every single day,
right?
But there's like mobility and skills and things like practice. Like I really want, one of my goals this year is I want to be able to do a freestanding handstand.
Mm-hmm.
And right now I'm doing wall handstands, and I'm getting really good at them. And I'm starting to be able to get off the wall a little bit and hold it off the wall.
Okay.
So yeah, there's always something you can do, and it's because it's skill based. It's like the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. So
Absolutely.
so I try to do something every day that's going to help me move closer to that.
Gotcha. And what about like workouts besides that? Are you still keeping up with like regular cardio, or are you doing any weight training besides that, or is it?
Yeah. So there is still hypertrophy work in the program.
Mm-hmm.
Not as much as I was doing when I was doing like a bodybuilding type of routine, but it's a different type of strength and a different type of development there. So like it's like a lot of isometrics and a lot of holds.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of the movements and the skills that I want to do require like a great deal of core strength and flexibility.
Sure.
So there's a ton of flexibility, a ton of like mobility work and stuff to try to get some more flexibility in my hips and my hamstrings, which are a tight area for me. So yeah, I'm still doing like some general strength training, hypertrophy work stuff. But it's just not as much as it was when I was bodybuilding.
Sure. And it's actually cool that you're switching it up and doing this, because the gains that you make with this is going to carry over and helping you with your weight training workouts as well. You know, like the strength you build with body weight exercises and calisthenics, it's a very functional strength. And it's anytime you're moving your entire body through space, there's a higher level of neuromuscular activation. And that's why a lot of times body weight exercises are more demanding than similar movements where you're just moving your limbs. So like if you did pull-ups to failure versus pull downs, you're going to feel a deeper level of muscle stimulation with the pull-ups. You know, same with squats versus a leg press. When you're moving your entire body through space, you're engaged in more muscle activation, that more neuromuscular activation. So it really helps when it comes to creating that real world functional strength. So it's cool that you're doing that. I mean, I know we're doing a lot of body weight work along the way with your training, but now you're kind of stepping it up to that next level. So it's going well for you. And as far as myself, I've been keeping consistent with the whole New Year's challenge that we put out there, the 30 by 30 exercise for a minimum of 30 minutes a day for 30 days, right? To kind of kick off January on the right track. And that's been going really well for me. There was only one day that I had to scrape by with the minimum, if you will, when it comes to the 30 minutes of exercise. And it was one day I was feeling just tired because I was actually doing a lot of training. Like I went for a big bike ride the day before, and I was just really tired. And I was almost like borderline. If it was a normal day, I would have just said, you know what, I'm just going to take a day off. But I didn't want to give up on my 30 by 30 streak that I've been putting out there. So I said, you know what, I'm going to focus on doing some stretching and mobility work. So that's what I did. I did a 30-minute stretching routine, which still counts. I mean, that's still 30 minutes of exercise, 30 minutes of proactive exercise there. And it felt really good afterwards. So that was my rest day, or the easy day, if you will. But other than that, it's been consistent with weight training, cardio, and keeping that yin and yang, right? The alternating weight training one day and cardio the next. And it's been going really well. So that's my goal for January, is to, you know, lead by example with that 30 by 30. And a lot of the guys in our Muscle After 40 Blueprint program are doing that as well, as you've probably been noticing on our private Facebook group. A lot of guys are sharing their 30 by 30. And it's a simple challenge for the new year, because a lot of times people overcomplicate New Year's resolutions and New Year's goals, and they put them up on a pedestal, and they have these big grand things like, oh, I'm going to go on some crazy diet, and I'm going to lose 50 pounds, and I'm going to work out every day, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do, and it's just too much, and it overwhelms them, and then they ultimately end up, you know, quitting in frustration because they can't keep up with that, you know, big demanding list of goals and resolutions that they set for themselves. Where if you just have one keystone habit, this one, the daily exercise, it's easy to follow through with. And then that one keystone habit can then snowball into other areas. Because as we know, a lot of times when people, they exercise regularly, that's more motivation to make better food choices. There's more motivation to get to bed at a decent hour so that you have energy to work out the next day. more motivation to limit or avoid alcohol consumption, because if you're hungover, you're not going to be able to exercise the next day. Like, it's a keystone habit that can snowball into so many areas. So like a lot of times when people are saying, hey, should I focus on diet or should I focus on exercise? I always recommend the exercise first. Get that habit sorted. And I find that then carries over habits. So that's been going really well. And I mean, obviously you've been going strong with that habit as well. So let's jump in here and see what we got as far as questions and viewers joining us. So we have Robert is joining in. Welcome, Robert. Glad to have you tuning in. Mr. Me, greetings from Israel. I've been following you from early 2010. Thanks for the content. Well, thanks for the support. I appreciate it. And that's been quite a while. Going on 13 years. 2010, I mean, it doesn't seem that long ago to me, but when you put it in perspective, it is long. And you got Mr. Stanley Stud joining in. Hello, Stanley. And how to get back into working out consistently after a long period of slacking. What I just basically talked about, right? That whole new 30 challenge. Commit to doing 30 minutes of exercise per day. And let's just talk about that 30 minutes of exercise, because it doesn't have to be 30 minutes of a hardcore weight training workout. It could be going for a walk. It could be something, anything that keeps your body active. Like, how do you go about it, Jeff? Like, I know you mentioned your current routine now, but like even before, when you were doing more traditional weight training workouts, I mean, like, you weren't working out every single day.
No.
But like, how did you commit to doing some form of activity most days?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You know, I always tried to move my body in some way every single day, whether it's going for a walk or it's or lifting weights or doing some kind of flexibility work or something. But I always try to move my body every single day. Yeah. No, I don't want to go a whole day without moving. It's just like you end up just feeling stiff, and at the end of every day I try to do something in the morning.
And the idea here is to keep the habit of exercise alive. Like, that's the most important thing. A lot of people are wondering, like, what's the best workout? What's the best set and rep pattern? What's the best workout split? Like, all the details. Like, when you're starting off, that doesn't matter. The consistency is what matters. You know, being good enough consistently, and just keeping that exercise habit alive. So it could be a weight training workout. It could be a body weight workout. It could be some sort of home follow along workout. Could be going for a walk, could be going for a bike ride or a swim or a jog or whatever. Like, just something. Could even be doing physical labor work, like, you know, whether it's yard work or getting out and mowing the lawn or shoveling the driveway, depending on the time of year it is. Like, something like all that stuff, anything that counts, anything that keeps your body moving and active, you know, that's it, all counts.
Right.
But we want to build that habit. Then that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Something is always better than nothing.
Yes, absolutely. And don't overcomplicate it. In fact, what I would recommend, that's for Mr. Me here, who's head on over to my website, leehayward.com. And there's, I think right now, the first blog post there, it's called No Time for Exercise, Start with 10 Minutes. And it actually shares the story of how I utilize mini 10-minute workouts to start my whole get back in shape after 40, the whole muscle after 40 transformation. It started with literally 10-minute workouts, and I share the story of how I incorporated those. So it doesn't have to take a lot of time. It just, you got to commit to starting small and building from there. All right, let's move on. See what else we got. Sup, Lee? From Steve. Haven't been here in a while. Well, welcome back, Steve. Glad to have you joining in. We have, Ribble Pink.
I think it's Roblox. I think that's what that is.
Roadblocks.
Roblox.
Okay. Making gains on all my weights except for biceps. Any variations or routines you recommend to overcome this, or just be patient? Well, patience is a good virtue to have when it comes to virtually anything, but especially when it comes to fitness. Making gains on all my weights except for biceps. Now, I'd like to break this down a little bit. Biceps is a very small muscle group. So you're not going to see massive strength gains in terms of increasing the weight on the barbell or the dumbbells or the machines with biceps as you would with other exercises. Like, just to give you an analogy or an example here, if you add 5 pounds to a 200-pound deadlift versus adding 5 pounds to a 20-pound dumbbell curl, there's a big difference percentage-wise, right? It's a massive difference. So you're not going to be able to make those big, steady jumps in weight with bicep exercises, but you can still make gains with your bicep exercises. So I don't get hung up on the numbers. I focus on feeling the muscles when I'm training them. And Harvey's banging the door again. How about you, Jeff? Like, how do you focus on that? And you probably noticed this yourself, like with your workouts. Obviously, arm exercises and isolation exercises don't see the same strength gains as you do in your big compound lifts.
No, certainly not. Yeah, you try to. I try to use a weight that's manageable, so you get a really good mind muscle connection with the bicep. And I find that when training your biceps, I don't know if it's a mental thing for me or whatever, but like when I'm doing a curl,
yeah,
I actually like to look at the bicep while I do it to make sure that I'm getting a good contraction. And then changing it up from things like dumbbells to resistance bands. Resistance bands for me hit my arms. I feel them in my arms way more than I do with like dumbbells or barbells. So I like that peak contraction that you get with rubber resistance bands. And then changing the angles of your arms. So having your arms in front of you, having your arms behind you, and putting them at a mechanically disadvantage when you're doing the lift, that can help a lot too. So you get a big stretch, especially when they're behind you. That's a really difficult movement.
Stretching the biceps.
Yeah. So changing the angles helps a lot. And then you can hit them indirectly by doing things like chin-ups or rows. Any kind of back exercise is going to hit your biceps to some degree. Recently for biceps, I've been doing Olympic ring curls. So like I have the rings out in front of me and I'll curl them in.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. Or I'll do pelican curls, which is when it's like you're doing you have Olympic rings, but they're behind you, and then you slowly go down like that, and that's a really difficult exercise. It's like doing a bicep curl with your arms behind you, but using your body weight in rings.
Now, with these, are you like, it's not your entire body weight? Are you lifting with your feet supported on the floor, or?
Yeah, well, your feet supported on the floor, but you can change the level of resistance by the leverage, right? So like if you're depending on how low the rings are, where your feet are, and like how low you're going, how horizontal your body is, it's going to be harder and harder. So that's a great way to measure progression too, though, right? So if you can change the angles and stuff like that to see if you're getting stronger by changing the angles.
Yeah, that's cool. I like how you mentioned that and incorporating different movement variations. One thing that I would recommend for roadblocks here is check out over on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel. We've got a playlist there. It's positions of flexion. That's a good one. There's a bicep workout using positions of flexion. In fact, it's a full arm workout, biceps and triceps. But I think that's the main thing to really focus on is like you mentioned, Jeff, feeling the muscles working and not getting hung up on the weights. Like, because with the biceps, if you get caught up in chasing bigger weights, what often happens is your form breaks down in order to compensate for the heavier weight. And you see people swinging, and once that happens, then you actually providing less quality muscle stimulation. So I'd much rather you keep the weights conservative, really slow and controlled, and feeling those muscles working, getting that mind muscle connection. And I find you'll actually make better gains because of it. So with my workouts, I'll just share this and then you can go on. Like I don't focus on increasing the weight. Like the only time I'll increase weight for arm exercises is when it feels easy. Then I'll increase the weight. But I'm not like every week trying to go 5 pounds heavier or anything like that. I usually keep the weights the same until it feels easy. How do you go about progressive overload with that?
I like doing like drop sets with bands, right? So I'll take like a 13, an 8, and a 5 like, like those rubber resistance, like
Yep.
the tubings,
Mhm.
and I'll hold on to all 3 of them, and I'll stand there and I'll do curls. And then when I can't do any more, I'll drop the
Right.
13 and then do 8 and 5. Or
Yeah.
no, I'm sorry. I'll drop the 5 and then I'll do 8 and 13. Once I can't do any more, drop the 8. So it's just the 13. And by the time you get to just the 13, like the pump and the burn is just like insane, right?
Yeah.
And then you drop it. You could do that with pull downs too
Right.
for your triceps, but that's a great way to get some extra volume in there and still get a really great contraction and mind muscle connection to your arms.
Cool.
That's one of my favorites to do for arms.
Gotcha. And what kind of repetitions would you be using for that? Bands, like in just a ballpark, like in total reps, because I'm assuming it'd be high reps with the drop sets.
Yeah, well, when you're at your strongest and you're holding on to all 3 of them, like you could probably, I mean, for me, I could probably get to like, I don't know, 10 to 12, something like that. And then you drop the first one, and then you're doing like 5 or 6,
Okay.
right? And then you're
Yep.
dropping the last one. And by the time you get to 13, it's like you're doing 3 or 4 reps.
Really? Okay. So you see the drop really fast.
You can see the strength. Yeah. Your strength is gonna drop real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, but the burn is insane. Let me tell you, if you're looking for like a good arm pump, that's a good one.
Cool. I might give that one a try. Yeah. So I mean, that's a great way to just really provide that unique muscle stimulation. So, well, this is cool. Thanks for sharing that. Let's see, we got Mark joining in. Look at you two on this stormy Friday afternoon. It's not stormy where I'm to. How about you, Jeff?
That is raining. Yeah.
Okay, we're supposed to be getting some rain later, but it hasn't hit yet. Tomorrow we're getting our rain, but that's all relative to where you are to. We have Khalid joining in. Welcome, Khalid. We have Steve. How's life without guns in Canada? It's fine. I don't own a gun. No. Other than these. Right? Locked and loaded.
Yeah. Lethal weapons.
Right? That's the only guns. Right? Yeah. They don't want people walking around with loaded guns like that all the time. Where are we to? What else we got? JFH89. Hey, Lee, just taken up grip training and I'm close to the COC2. Any tips on grip training? Yeah. If you go on my YouTube channel and do a search for like Lee Hayward hand grippers or Lee Hayward heavy grippers, you should see some old videos. Like back in the day, I posted a lot of videos and a lot of content related to hand gripper training. And I also have a hand gripper training ebook that I put together. And this was, oh my God, years ago, because I started focusing on hand grippers back in 2004. That's when I got serious into it, because that's around the time that I was getting involved with powerlifting, and I realized my grip sucked. I was one of those guys who was utilizing straps for everything. So every time I did any back or rowing or deadlifts or whatever, I always used straps, which was okay from a gym workout perspective. But in powerlifting, if you can't hold on to the barbell without straps, it don't count. So in the deadlift, for example, you got to have your raw grip, no straps. So I noticed that was my weak link. So I used hand grippers to really strengthen that. And I made an ebook covering some of the techniques that I use to maximize my grip strength. And one of the key things I'm going to share with you is when it comes to grip training, multiple sets, low reps. And I would actually do singles. Like, not a lot of people think like grab the hand grippers and mash out multiple reps, like 10, 20 reps. I would do 1 rep with the hand grippers and even do like heavy negatives. See, we're talking about, I got some hand grippers here to share with you. So like, how would you do a negative is you would set the gripper, you use both hands to close it, and then you would just slowly let it peel open with one hand. So you take a gripper that you couldn't close. So in your case, this guy says you can close a number 2. So you get a 2.5 or a 3. You would cheat it shut with both hands and then do heavy negatives. That's a great way to build up your strength. Another one that I used to do a lot of is take a really light gripper. So in this case, the number 1 or even the trainer gripper, and do what's called over crushes, where you would squeeze it, but squeeze it so hard that you're you're visualizing that you're trying to crush the gripper, like trying to snap it off. So taking a really light resistance, but exerting maximum force behind it. That's another way. So it's a complete opposite. And I found like alternating heavy negatives and the over crushes was one of the strategies I used to really build up my grip strength. And within 3 months, I was able to add a full inch to my forearms for one. So that was a side effect of building up the grip strength. But I also went from, I was using heavy grips. So the strength is a little different on heavy grips versus the Captain to Crush. But I went from closing the heavy grips 200 to the heavy grips 300 in 3 months. So it was a big jump. So, I mean, that's, you can utilize those tips to certainly work up to closing the heavier grippers as well. But what I want you to do, send me an email. And this applies to anybody watching this video chat. If you want a copy of the hand gripper training manual, just email me at lee@leehayward.com. Drop me an email. My email is in the description below this video. And just put the word hand gripper manual, and I'll send you a copy. It's a PDF file that I got. I'll just email it to you. Have you ever used grippers, Jeff? Hand grippers?
Yeah, I bought them, but I don't use them.
Right. I can appreciate that. I don't use them very much anymore either. I mean, I've got them, but it's not a priority for me at this stage because I'm not. My grip is no longer a weak link for the type of training I'm doing. Like I'm not doing heavy 1 rep max deadlifts or anything that's really taxing my grip to the limit. So my grip is strong enough to do what I need to do. And I don't use straps anymore in the gym or anything like that. It's all raw grip. But if you're doing your rows and your pulls and all that stuff and pull-ups and whatever with your raw grip, that's enough to build up and maintain adequate grip strength for most people. It's only someone who really wants to take it to the next level or maximize their grip would need to incorporate specialized grip training.
Yeah.
And that's a common thing. Like I've even noticed, like just talking to a lot of like even professional bodybuilders and other athletes, very few people do direct forearm grip work unless it is a weak link for them. Just the side effect of your regular workouts for most people will build up adequate grip strength.
Yeah. I do a lot of pull-up hangs now.
I mean, that's grip work there, right?
Yeah. I mean,
so
I don't use the hand grippers because like for what I'm trying to do in my like my goals and are more centered around hanging from a pull-up bar.
Sure.
So, I mean, I still do forearm work every day, grip work every day, but it's just not the hand grippers. So right now I'm doing like passive to active hangs, and I could do up to like a 2-minute hang on a pull-up bar. And by the time you get done at that 2 minutes, like your forearms are on fire.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. So I like that a little bit more just because it's more functional towards what I'm trying to achieve.
Sure.
But I could see why the hand grippers would be great if you were into powerlifting.
Yeah. I mean, it would still carry over to, other areas of strength. Like for a while, like I really got into the whole grip thing. Like it was almost like a cult following of like different grip feats. Like back in the day, I mean, like one thing that I worked up to doing, like tearing a deck of cards in half, right? Like, like I got videos. I'm not sure if they must be on YouTube or not, but I had videos where I tore a deck of cards in half. Another one, like rolling up a frying pan, right? Like all these weird. One I was working on that I never did accomplish was tearing a phone book in half. That was one that I was working on, but I never did get it. Yeah,
it's a good trick to know at parties,
right? But there, right? But I mean, it's still build up your grip and your forearms and your wrists and like all that. But it's just really, other ones like bending nails. That's another one, right? So like what you would do is you get like some leather and you'd wrap the ends of the nails so it's not going to dig into your hands, right? And then you bend them and like there's proper technique for it and all that. But that's some stuff that I used to do back in the day. I got caught up in that whole grip training phase, if you will. It was really popular for a while, but that really complemented like powerlifting nicely. And of course it was just a cool trick to do, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
But I haven't done that stuff in years, so I'm not at that peak strength anymore. Yeah. All right, what else we got there? Stanley Stud says he's weight training for judo. I don't know if that's a comment or a question, but weight training for judo. I mean, I'm going to, let's just assume that is a question. What I would focus on, the big thing is whenever you're doing weight training and another sport, you need to factor in the recovery, because this is the biggest limiting factor is your recovery, and also your schedule too. But let's just say you're doing judo a couple times a week, and then you're doing weight training 2 or 3 times a week. Like that's a lot, right? Because I mean, and it's going to take away from your recovery, because it's not like, I always like to visualize we have 100 units of recovery. It's not like we have 100 units for judo and 100 units for weight training and 100 units for whatever else you're doing. So we got 100 units total. How do you divvy that up? So if you're doing 2 different sports, then you got to balance it out accordingly. And what gets the most priority? It's really personal preference, right? So like, if you're serious into martial arts and judo, obviously that's going to take a big chunk, and then the weight training will be supplementing that. Vice versa, if your main goal is weight training and building strength and muscle, and the judo is kind of like the supplement, well, you can adjust your training accordingly. But that's the big thing. You really have to balance it out so that you're not overtraining, which is a common thing. I mean, how do you go about this, Jeff? Like, I know, you haven't done judo, at least not that I know of.
No, I haven't.
Have you done any other sports or activities while you were working out where you had to balance your recovery?
Not really. I mean, I do like a lot of cycling and stuff, but I don't do it like competitively or anything like that. I have a friend of mine who's trying to get me to join his recreational soccer league.
Okay.
Yeah. Which would be fun. I mean, I might give that a shot. I don't know. I don't really have the skills to play soccer.
Yeah.
But still might be fun just to go and see it as like a cardio exercise. I mean, the cardio it takes to run around the field like that back and forth is crazy.
And the agility, because it's not just running. I mean, like, it's the side to side, the lateral movement, the starts, the stops, the sprints. It's very explosive, right? So
yeah.
But hey, if you want to try something new, there's no harm in doing that. It can be humbling, and who knows, you might stumble on something you really enjoy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or you'll learn one more thing that you don't enjoy.
Yeah.
One or the other.
Yeah. You know what? I've tried to give everything a shot when it comes to fitness, because this has been a passion of mine, and everything that I seem to try out, I seem to really enjoy. So I try not to say no to anything when it comes to fitness training. It's like, yeah, okay, I'll give it a shot, see if I like it. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll go play soccer once, see if I like it.
Gotcha. Sure. All right, let's see what else we got there. I'm just going to scroll through here, jump into some questions. Brian's joining in. Brian's part of the Muscle After 40 program. He says, here's a question. Well, first of all, he says, hello, gentlemen. All right, so we're the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Here's a question. What are some mindset best practices to keep yourself on track and disciplined for continued fat loss? I love these type of questions, because this is the mindset, the inner game. This is what makes or breaks a fitness program, or pretty much anything that you're trying to do, because it's not the tactics. I keep coming back to that all the time. Like, a lot of people say, well, if I only knew the calories and the macros and the sets and the reps and the whatever, well, I'd be in shape. No, because all that stuff is out there. Like, I can go on Google and I can search for, calories and macros and workouts, and it's all there. Right? Like, every workout's ever been they're available. You can search diet plans. It's all out there. I can get calorie counters and all this, and that's not what's holding people back, the tactics. It's how do you actually take those tactics and apply it as part of your lifestyle, and have it set up in a way that you enjoy and can do sustainably. That's where the success and the battle is won or lost. So, like, Jeff, how have you really made this part of your lifestyle? Like, what are any particular mindset practices or anything that's worked particularly well for you?
Well, I remember going through the program for the first time, and there was a lesson in the precision nutrition program that it states that you should try to live your life like you've already achieved your goal. And I really enjoyed that, and I remember that because it's it's true. Like if you identify as somebody who is already lean and muscular and in shape, and then the habits and the routines tend to follow, and then you're able to make better decisions when certain situations arise. So if you're out to dinner or something like that, you make the better choice because that's what a fit, healthy, athletic person would do. You got the grocery store and you're putting things in your grocery chart or in your grocery cart. Like what would a fit, healthy person put in his grocery cart? Things like that helps you stay more on track. And because you're identifying as somebody who makes the right choices and reflects the goals that you want to achieve. So I really like that one. And that really helped send me down the right path. And once I started making those choices and started building that routine and the discipline and everything that follows with that, it became really, really easy and effortless for me to follow it. That's somebody's at the door.
That's the doorbell.
That's the doorbell.
The most reliable doorbell of all, the woof woof doorbell.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's what helped me when I was first getting going with it, and it's I still use it today, and it still works for me.
I love that, the identity, and that's huge, making that identity shift. I think that's one of the biggest practices that you could certainly implement. Instead of one analogy that I've always shared with a lot of my coaching students is the analogy of, visualizing a smoker who's trying to quit versus a non-smoker, right? Like that. Just think of the differences. Someone who identifies as a non-smoker versus someone who's trying to quit and is identifying as a smoker who's trying to quit. Like, if I had a cigarette and I handed it to the non-smoker and say, hey, you want a cigarette? They're going like, no, thanks, I'm a non-smoker. Whereas if I hand it to the smoker who's trying to quit, they're like, I'm trying to quit. But like, you can tell like they're not fully committed. They're still seeing themselves as a smoker who's trying to quit. And we see the same when it comes to fitness and weight loss. A lot of people still identify as the fat, overweight, out of shape person who's trying to lose weight. Like I'm trying to go on a diet. I'm trying to lose weight. Like they don't visualize themselves as like, I'm a lean, healthy person, right? Or whatever you want to identify yourself. I'm an athlete. I'm one of the guys in our group, Paul Miller. He says, I'm what's he said? He's an athlete of aging, right? Paul's in his late 60s. And that's what he says. I'm an athlete of aging. And that's the way he identifies himself. So you got to have that self-identity of who do you want to be. And once you have that identity, then that makes the habits follow along. Because for a non-smoker, like there's no question like, hey, am I going to have the cigarette or not? No, I'm a non-smoker, right? That's it. I don't, the decision is already made. Whereas someone who's trying to quit, they're always battling it. And like most people who are trying to quit, they're really good at quitting because they quit every week. Right? They quit and pick it back up again. They quit and pick it back up again. Just like people who go on a diet. They'll diet for a week or two and then they'll quit, and then they'll diet for a week or two and then they'll binge, and back and forth. Whereas you just have to have like the identity shift. Like that's it. This is the type of person I am. And there's no like on and off again or whatever. Like, like even with us, I mean, like I'm not, as long as I'm physically able to, I'm going to exercise until the day I die. I mean, unless I'm ill and bedridden, I'm going to exercise to the best of my ability. And I mean, you're the same way. Like that's just part of your identity. It's who you are. Right? Another example, you're a musician. I mean, you're going to play music for as long as you're physically able to play music. That's part of your identity, right? You don't wake up and think, hey, am I going to play today? Am I not going to play? I don't know, right? It's not a him or her. That's who you are. You're a musician. Yeah, your identity. Yeah. So that's the biggest one. So I'm glad you shared that one, Jeff. I think making that identity shift is the single most important thing you can do. All right, what else we got there? All right. Oh, the roadblocks. That's Martin. I didn't know that. Martin's part of our program. Like, I've never been creative with coming up with funky usernames. Like my username for everything I've ever signed up for since the beginning of the internet was just Lee Hayward. Like, I'm not very creative. They say, like, what's your username? Lee. Right? Or Lee Hayward. And if that's taken, then I might have to throw on a number on the end of it or something like that. Right? Oh, anyway, that was Martin. Okay. What do we got? Khalid joining in. What's my height? I'm 5'6", a towering 5'6". What's your height, Jeff? Taller than me.
I am 6 feet tall.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
So, I know. When we hung out, I had to look up at you. All right. Let's see what we got there. Thoughts on lifting straps versus a lifting hook. Also 13 of 13 towards the New Year's 30 by 30 challenge. Well, congratulations on 13 days of exercise in 13 days on Friday the 13th. I hope you're not superstitious. We'll keep that momentum moving forward. Thoughts on lifting straps versus a lifting hook. Ideally, I wouldn't use either. We kind of touched on this earlier with the whole idea of grip training. If you can train without straps or hooks or any artificial grip aid, I would just recommend using your natural grip. If you need something, lifting chalk, that would help, especially if you're doing free weight exercises or exercises where you need to increase the friction between your skin and the bar and the handles you're grabbing, and also to dry up sweat. And I'm assuming, Jeff, with the calisthenics gym that you're training at and doing ring work and all that stuff, you guys have a chalk box at that gym.
We do, yeah. And I use it when I'm at the gym, but I promised my wife I would not use the chalk in the house because I work out at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't want to come downstairs to the basement. There's chalk everywhere.
Right. It's not as messy as a lot of people make it out to be. Like, I've used it at home, and it is easy to clean up. And but again, it's one more thing that you got to do now. You got to clean up after your workout.
Yeah.
But I can see that. But that's what I would recommend over the straps or the hooks, would be chalk and just building up your natural grip strength that way. For full transparency, I've never used a lifting hook before. I've used straps, and they certainly do work, but I've never ever used hooks. Have you, Jeff? Used straps or hooks?
I've used straps before, but I've never used hooks.
No. This is just a theory, but I think the strap would be more realistic because at least you're still grabbing the barbell or the dumbbell or whatever with the strap. So you're still kind of getting more of a natural connection. Whereas the hook, it's like an artificial connection, and you literally don't even need to grab it because it's the hook is supporting it. It's just hanging from your wrist. They're strapped on. Whereas the lifting strap, you still got to, make a fist and grab the barbell or the handle or whatever you're grabbing. So from that perspective, I think the strap would be more realistic, but I preferably not use either one. Khalid, what is the problem if I don't get a pump in the gym? I take a pre-workout and some source of carbs and protein, but the problem, I live in a hot country now. Before I was in a cold country, I get pump, but now I don't. All right. Well, myself and Jeff, we live in the northern hemisphere where it's hot part of the time of the year, or warm, depending on what you consider hot or warm. And then it's cold for half the year. So I'm just going to ask you, do you notice any difference between training in the wintertime and the summertime? As far as like pumps or energy or anything like that?
I mean, I work out in my basement, and it's a non-finished basement. So it is colder down there, obviously, in the wintertime. And sometimes, like, I try to keep moving to keep myself warm because, I mean, I'll get cold if I take like super long rest periods between sets. But I always try to warm up beforehand, do some kind of form of cardio, like 10 minutes of like cycling or rowing or jumping jacks, or I don't know, or running in place or something, some kind of circuit thing, just to keep myself moving, to keep my body temperature up. Yeah. So in terms of pumps and stuff, no, I don't notice a difference between like summer and winter months.
Okay. Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting situation here. And I'm kind of wondering if it's more of a correlation and not necessarily a causation. The temperature, like it's maybe his diet has changed when he moved from one country to the other.
Mm.
You know, and then the move, or who knows? I mean, maybe you're overtraining. Like there's the fact that you're not getting a pump, like that could be a sign of a lot of things. Like maybe you're overreaching or overtraining, and you need to go through a deload phase, let your body recover. Because if you're feeling burnt out and exhausted, then that's going to limit your ability to get a pump. It's going to limit your gains and your strength. So sometimes we need to go through those deload phases or active recovery phases. So I mean, again, it could be a correlation and not necessarily a causation. So here,
could be
another thing just want to touch on as well, sodium. A lot of people have this misconception about sodium, thinking that it's the bad guy. You know, like, oh, the doctor says don't consume salt, and I'm always trying to cut my salt, and I'm trying to be healthy. Salt is essential. Like if you don't have salt and sodium in your diet, like you need it to live. Like if you had a zero sodium diet, like you would literally die. You need it. It's an electrolyte. Your body needs it for the electrical signals and functions. So you need to have sodium. And if you don't have enough, what can often happen is you're not going to get enough pump. You're not going to have enough blood volume and the electrolytes to actually get a good pump. So, and muscle cramps, weakness, dizziness, there's a whole slew of side effects that can come along from low sodium. So one thing that I do personally with my water bottles, like when I'm going to the gym, I usually mix up a workout drink, and it's amino acids and literally salt in the bottle. So I mix my water. I put a scoop of essential amino acids, which is usually a flavored one. And then I'll take just the salt shaker, put a few shakes of salt in there as well, so I'm getting some extra sodium. And I even carry salt packets with me. So if I do feel like I'm cramping up or I don't have enough sodium, I'll literally rip open a salt packet and just chase it down and with water. And I find that helps as well, especially if you experience cramps and you sweat a lot. So if you're sweating more and you're drinking more water, you need to replenish the sodium that you're losing. So that's another reason why you may be suffering from lack of pumps. And if you're in a warmer country now, I believe Khalid lives in India, if I'm not mistaken, because we've messaged back and forth, and he's a regular. If you're, I mean, I've never been to India before, but it's hot from what I hear. So yeah, if you're sweating a lot and drinking a lot of water and you're not replenishing your sodium, that could be the reason why you're not getting enough of a pump in the gym. Do you do anything like that, Jeff? Do you add sodium or salt to your diet, or change? You know,
I mean, I love salt. I add salt to practically everything that I eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, like eggs, lunch. I mean, every meal that I have, I always have the salt shaker next to me. That's a new development with my wife. My wife, I never used to, but then my wife's like a salt fanatic. She salts everything, and then she got me doing it, and now I put salt on everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've never had to supplement it with it, but I don't do like the crazy endurance cycling exercises like you do, where you're like sweating like crazy.
Right.
So I could definitely see why you would want to in your situation.
So some people sweat more than others. Like it's not a comfortable thing, but I do sweat a lot when I work out. Like, I mean, I will drench a t-shirt even in the wintertime. Right. I'll drench a t-shirt in my gym workouts. And of course, when I go for bike rides, I sweat a lot. Like some people don't sweat much. Like my wife, she doesn't sweat much, but I do. So she doesn't need to be as sodium conscious as I do, right? So like I'll cramp up because I'm sweating so much and I need to replenish the sodium. And I mean, like if I'm wearing a black t-shirt like this, especially like after it's sweated up, like sometimes you can even see the white salt stains through the shirt, right? You know?
Wow.
So like you need to replenish that if you're sweating a lot. So that's what I think could be the problem with Khalid there, especially where he says he's in a hotter country now. It could be drinking more water, sweating more, need to replenish the sodium. So that's what I would start with and just see how that works. Let's move on. Let's see what else we got there. Gabriel's joining in. Hi, Lee and Jeff. Do you recommend using straps all along your back workout? A lot of people are worried about losing their grip strength. Well, we're getting a lot of themes on straps today. We've already touched on it, and not a fan of straps. I don't use them at all anymore. Jeff, do you use them at all anymore?
No, not anymore.
Right.
Nope.
Now, I used to use them all the time, and I became, you know, reliant on them because it got to the point where I couldn't even do exercises without the straps because my grip sucked so bad. And that's why I started prioritizing grip training to fix it. But if you avoid using straps, you can keep your grip in proportion, you know, to your back strength. So I ideally your grip should not be the limiting factor. I mean, in the case of like a really heavy shrug or something like that, or if you're doing max effort deadlifts, it may be a limiting factor. But for most exercises, it like Jeff, I know you're really strong at pull-ups. Like when you're doing high rep pull-ups, is your grip the limiting factor, or is it actual back strength? You know, back and arm strength.
It's my back.
Yeah, it's not the grip, not your fingers peeling open. You can't hold on to the barbell.
No, because I work on my grip on the pull-up bar because that's a goal, as it's because it works towards the goals that I want, that I'm trying to achieve. So I don't avoid it. See, like I always kind of saw straps as like a way of avoiding just getting stronger at grip strength.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've used them in the past before, but it's like I always just feel like it's just avoiding the inevitable thing that I'm going to have to confront at some point, right? My grip. So so I work on grip strength so that way my grip is not my limiting factor.
Sure. I mean, back when I was training for powerlifting, I would use them occasionally, but it was rare. It was like if I was doing heavy power rack lockouts and like deadlift lockouts or something like that, maybe I use the straps. But you know, 95% of my back workouts, there was no straps used. It was just kind of like sometimes if I felt I really wanted to push myself and the grip was the limiting factor, I might throw them on. But now the way that I train for more or less general health and fitness, I mean, I'm not pushing myself to that limit. If I can't hold on to the weight with my hands, it's too heavy. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
So let's move on. We got Steven joining in. Steven's a regular. Says, hi, both. What's the best way to get rid of tennis elbow? Had it for years now. It's really doing my head in. Lee, can you help? It hurts most when I'm training back, lats, pull downs mostly, and barbell rows, even with lighter weight. Jeff, have you ever had elbow tendonitis, aka tennis elbow, or golfer's elbow? Like we should just clarify that tennis elbow is usually on the outside of the forearm, that area. It's not really the elbow. It's kind of like just in the forearm area around the elbow joint, whereas golfers is on the inside. So tennis outside, golfers inside. I've had both. How have you worked around it?
I found this really great stretch for tennis elbow that really helped me a lot. Where so you hold on. Let's see if I can illustrate this. You hold on to the pull-up bar. With both hands, and then you let go of one, and you try not to let your torso dip, but you try to keep your torso straight like that, and that stretches the whole outside of your elbow. Like
really?
Crazy. Yeah. And I found that stretch online, and I started doing it, and you get a great stretch in your elbow. And you do it on both sides, hold it for 30 seconds, and that helped me a ton.
Wow.
Another thing too is I used to get bad elbow pain when I would do like standing dumbbell curls. So switching it up to barbells or resistance band helped with that as well. So just changing it up and not being like stupid and lifting through pain.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I find like it's not worth it. So like whenever I'm experiencing any kind of joint pain or anything like that while performing an exercise, there's always another exercise that you can do that will work the same muscle group that you're trying to target, but will feel better. So you should go do that because it's all about being in the game long term.
Right. Oh, thanks for sharing that. Like that stretch, I've never tried that myself. So I mean, obviously, there's nothing stopping you from doing it as a regular stretch anyway. But I'm going to give that one a try next time I'm at the gym.
Yep.
But the big thing with any form of elbow tendonitis or joint pain or whatever is to avoid making it worse, avoid aggravating it. So if there's any particular exercise that causes pain and discomfort, don't do that exercise and look for another variation instead. And you kind of acknowledge that. In my case, what I found is changing your grips can very often help. So if you find a bicep curl hurts, maybe you can try doing like a hammer curl. That's one that I found worked. Just changing it up from a regular palms up grip to a thumbs up grip, the hammer curl. That usually allows you to work around elbow tendonitis because you're changing the stress on the tendons and ligaments. I mean, you could also try different types of pulley cable attachments, like sometimes using a low pulley cable for biceps instead of a barbell. Just that change in the angle, change in the resistance, or like Jeff, you mentioned too, rubber resistance bands is another one. Sometimes you can work around it and just find a position that still allows you to work the muscle, but not stress the tendon in the same position. This was, ironically, we've had a lot of people ask about straps. This was one time that I actually found you could sometimes use straps to your advantage if you do have elbow tendonitis, because you could avoid having to grip as hard. You could have a lighter grip on the barbell or the dumbbells, and sometimes just not having that same level of grip strength would allow me to work around it. So like when I was doing rows, if I found the row really hurt my tendonitis, using a strap and a looser grip actually allowed me to focus on squeezing and pulling my elbows back without engaging my grip and without aggravating the elbow tendonitis. So that's one exception where I found using a strap can actually be beneficial. So I've done that before. But the big one, of course, is to avoid making it worse and then to give it time to heal. I've done some different rehab exercises for it. One that I found, this was one that I learned from physio. I would actually grab you could do this at home, maybe like a hammer or something along those lines. But you would grab, if I got something to demonstrate this with, I don't. No, I don't. All right. Pretend this was a hammer. All right. This, you want something that weight, and you would just literally hold your arm and rotate from side to side like this, right? And that actually works the tendons and the ligaments in the forearms. And you want something like a lever, right? So you could actually work it. And when I went to physio, the way they had it was like they had a bar with weight on the end of it. And it wasn't a heavy weight, but still it was enough to have it off leverage. And you literally just rotate your fist back and forth. And by doing that, you're strengthening the tendons and the ligaments in that range of motion, the rotational supination. And I find that was helpful in strengthening the tendons and helping to alleviate some of the stress there and the tendonitis pain. Another thing that helps too is wearing like some sort of compression sleeve, or you can get a proper tennis elbow brace. There's different ones available. And one that I found the most effective is it's like a U-shaped brace, and it had a Velcro strap on the end of it, and it would just cup on the forearm there. And the idea is it's going to place the pressure right where you need it on those tendons. And the thing I liked about it is the ones that had the elastic Velcro strap is it would flex. So like if you're doing curls or rows or anything where your muscles are flexing, it would actually expand and allow your arm proper mobility. Whereas if you had one that didn't have that stretch, what would happen is as you flexed your arm, it would draw super tight. And then as you relaxed, it would get super loose. So having one with an elastic stretch or an elastic compression sleeve is helpful as well. Again, it's kind of like a Band-Aid solution, but it can sometimes allow you to work around without causing more pain. And then, of course, if in doubt, leave it out. So if you have to, you can literally skip some exercises for the short term, just let that heal up. I would much rather you not cause further damage than to think, well, I got to keep working and then end up placing more stress and damage on those ligaments. But if you let it heal up, it should come back to normal. I mean, I've had it for years, and sometimes it can linger on. And I think when it lingers on, it's because you're not letting yourself recover. You're still having that mindset of, I got to train through it. And then you actually prolong the recovery process, where sometimes you need to take a step back in order to take 2 steps forward. All right, let's move on. See what else we got there. How are you doing for time, Jeff?
I'm good. Yeah, I can take a few more.
We'll take a few more. Let's just see what else we got there. So I know you're playing a gig tonight. Where are you playing to tonight?
I'm playing in Ludlow, Vermont.
Ludlow, Vermont.
Yep, about 2 hours from my house, 9 to midnight. So it's gonna be a late night for me tonight.
Okay. Yeah. Anyone in Vermont? You want to go? You're in the mood for some evening entertainment? Conniption fits.
You wait. One of these days,
Oh,
somebody's
it's
going to
gonna
come up to
happen.
me at the gig and be like, "I was listening to you on the Total Fitness Bodybuilding channel." It's going to happen.
Oh, it will. I'm sure it will. Yeah. We have Steven joining in saying not a lifting hook, but a hook grip with the thumb under the fingers. Oh, okay. So we misunderstood his question. Which one was it? Oh, my bad. Hook grip. Okay. I just assumed lifting hook when he said hook grip, but yeah, I mean, he literally did say hook grip. So my bad there, Steven. But you know what? I'm going to acknowledge your question here. I don't like the hook grip. Have you ever done the hook grip, Jeff? Do you even know what it is?
No, what is it?
All right, it's basically you're using your thumb like a lifting strap. So you would wrap your thumb around the barbell and then your fingers around your thumb like that. So
Sounds painful.
It is. It is painful. So you as you're lifting, your thumb is being used like a strap to secure your grip. I have pretty stubby fingers and short thumbs, so like I find I don't have a lot of. When I try hook grip, it's like my thumb is not long enough, or my fingers not long enough to really get a good secure grip. So if I was to use a strength enhancing grip, I'd use the alternate grip. You know, one hand facing forward, one hand facing backwards, like for a deadlift or something like that. I've never successfully been able to do hook grip myself. Now, with that being said, I know some guys use it and build up the strength and the pain tolerance and love it. Like a lot of Olympic lifters use a hook grip. And I do know some power lifters who've used it, but it's something you got to train for. And it certainly helps if you have bigger hands. Like if you're a bit of a taller individual, like I'm only 5'6", so I'm not, the longest fingers, longest limbs or anything, right? And I find it's not an ideal grip for me personally, but I know some people do find it beneficial. So that's a personal preference. I would much rather use a hook grip versus straps, because at least the hook grip, you're still building up your natural grip strength versus the straps. But again, it's personal preference there, if that works for you or not. But yeah, you should you can Google search it if you want, Jeff, to see it. But it is. Yeah, you said it sounds painful. It's painful. I mean, especially if you're lifting max weight with it.
I'm interested now. Yeah, I'll look it up.
But it's one, like you're just not going to do it first time and say, oh, that's wonderful. Like, no, you're going to do it first time and like, shit, this hurts. And you got to like build up to it and get the proper grip. And I've heard people doing all kinds of weird stuff, like even like filing their thumbnail and everything else in such a way that they can get more grip on their thumbnail, right?
Wow.
Like cross filing it, so when their fingers can actually hook in and grab it with them. Almost like putting a knurling on your thumbnail, if you will, like the barbell knurling.
Jeez, wow.
But yeah, I've never had luck with the hook grip, and I've tried it, but it didn't work for me. All right, who else we got? Lee Dunnigan joining in. Have you ever used liquid egg whites? I got some free with a recent supplement order. I love eggs and always eat the whole thing, so this liquid stuff is new to me. This liquid stuff is not new to me. I've been using liquid egg whites for years, ever since I found out about them. I mean, they've been around for a long time. I don't know how long, but a long time. And I've been using them for a long time. How about you, Jeff?
Yeah, I buy 2 cartons of them every single week at the grocery store.
Okay, and how do you get them? Like, are they big cartons? Like, where do you get them, and how big are they?
How big are they? That's a good question.
Is it like a quart or something like that, or?
Sorry.
Is it like a quart or a liter, or?
Yeah, it's like a quart size. Yeah. Yeah, I buy 2 of them every week at the grocery store, and I think it's great because it's very, very low calorie, very, very high in protein, and you can
Pure
use
protein.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pure, yeah, it's like pure protein, and
Mhm.
you can mix it with so many different things. Like I put it in shakes and smoothies.
Mhm.
You can make an omelet with it. You can use it for baking too. So if you're making like high protein dessert recipes, then you can use it in that. They're very versatile, and they store really well.
Yep.
And yeah, I love them. I use it, buy them every single week
Sure.
without fail.
I'm same way. Like I get mine at Costco. I find Costco's got the best bang for the buck when, or at least around here for egg whites. But yeah, I use them, and if I sometimes will use them in combination with whole eggs. So I might like use a cup of liquid egg whites along with a whole egg. You know, if I'm
Yeah.
making an omelet or something like that, because there's still benefits to whole eggs.
Hmm.
Right? There's a lot of nutritional benefit in the yolk, but you also got to realize the yolk is where all the fat is. So if you want to kind of control your fat intake, then it's nice to have a combination of egg whites and whole eggs.
Right.
You know, so you can bump up your protein and keep the fat and calories in check that way. But yeah, they're very versatile. And the cool thing about like a carton of liquid egg whites, it's not raw; it's pasteurized.
Right.
So you can drink these raw because again it's not truly raw, it's pasteurized, so there's no risk of salmonella or anything like that. Like you could literally crack open the carton of liquid egg whites and just drink it. I know some people do that.
Mm.
I mean, I don't like doing it myself. I've tried it and it's like, ugh, you know, it's like drinking slime. But mix it in like a blender smoothie with some protein powder and some frozen berries or something like that. I mean, it blends up nice and you don't taste the sliminess of the egg white. Or you know, you can use it in with a whole bunch of stuff like that. I mean, but
Yeah.
that's how I would have it if I'm having it in a smoothie, as I pour it in with a blender and mix it up that way.
I use it for stir fries too.
Okay.
If you have like ground meat, like do
Mhm.
like a ground chicken or a ground turkey or beef or something, you can mix it in,
Yeah.
put some egg whites in there, and then some vegetables, and
Mhm.
then one thing I like to do. Okay, so I do this. I do get lean turkey, ground
Yeah.
lean turkey, put it in a frying pan, and then put whole wheat breadcrumbs in there, and then put in like a cup of liquid egg whites, so
Hmm.
it like all kind of molds together, and
Interesting.
you get like this kind of like meatloaf texture.
Okay. But
Yeah.
it's very high in protein. I mean, you got the turkey and the egg white in there. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. It's great meal prep food. So because it makes so much of it. So
Mm-hmm.
and it costs practically, I mean, nothing. I mean, like lean turkey or like a pound of lean turkey is like, I don't know, $7 or $8 or something like that at the grocery store. Like, so it's really not that much. And then with the liquid egg whites, I mean, you add that, you get a lot of protein for not a lot of money. So, and it stores great in the fridge and it heats up nice. So it's a great meal prep option.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing. Yeah, I'll give that one a shot. I just want to throw this question up here. This one's from Mike. We were actually chatting to Mike earlier this week because we had a private call on our VIP coaching program. He says, a friend of mine who's a chiropractor has tennis elbow, recommended a TheraBand Flex bar. You twist the bar various ways as an exercise. I ordered it off Amazon. Cool. I've never, I think I know what you're talking about, but I've never used one before. But that's for, I believe it was for Steven, who's suffering from tennis elbow. Something you might want to look into. TheraBand Flex bar. So again, it's just working the tendons in different positions, and of course, the idea of kind of simulating that rotational movement that I mentioned earlier that I learned from physio, but with that one is much more versatile, I guess. But thanks for sharing, Mike. Yeah, so I'll definitely look that up. And of course, for Steven, who's joining in as well, if you're still there, you might want to just do an Amazon search for a TheraBand Flex bar. Might be worth looking into. I would assume something along that line should not be overly expensive, but it certainly could help. And when it comes to relieving joint pain and tendon pain, if it helps, it's certainly worthwhile. Ray is joining in saying, what's a good supplement for your joints? All right. Do you take anything in particular for joints, Jeff?
Fish oil? Does fish oil?
Well, it helps with reducing inflammation, which can help with joints.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's like omega 3s is a good. There's so many health benefits to like omega-3 fatty acids, but reducing inflammation is one of them. And of course, inflammation can help with joint pain for sure. Personally, some that I use, it's kind of revolving around that inflammation area. So turmeric is another one that I use. I actually get pure turmeric capsules. So that's one that I find that's helpful for, again, an anti-inflammatory, a lot of health benefits to it. Another one that I use as well is collagen powder, and that can help to strengthen the joints and help to rebuild the joint cartilage. So I'll buy the collagen powder. It's basically like a protein powder, but there's basically no taste to it. But I'll put it in with like a few spoonfuls in with like a smoothie, or mix it in with my oatmeal or something like that. And that's another way to help provide some of the nourishment that your body needs to help support joint health. I have used supplements like glucosamine and chondroitin and MSM and those things, but I don't know if I really got much benefit from it, because I haven't used those in years, and I've been using the other ones instead lately, and my joints feel great. So I think a big part of joint health is not so much the nutrition. Don't get me wrong, that does play a big role, but taking care of your joints, like not, if you do have any aches, pains, or injuries, like letting them heal versus trying to work through that pain, like we mentioned earlier. But I think if you're training properly, another thing when it comes to your training in balance and proportion, so you're keeping your joints healthy, like doing equal volume of pushing and pulling. And we've mentioned this before, but I always try and structure my workout so I'm working agonist and antagonist movements, like opposing movement patterns. So if I'm doing a horizontal press, I want to do a horizontal pull. If I do an overhead press, overhead pull. Bicep curl, tricep extension. Leg curl, leg extension. Like always focus on balancing out the opposing movement patterns. And most of the time when I work out, that's how I structure my workouts, is opposing movement patterns. Now, it doesn't always have to be done the same day, even though I personally like to do it the same day. I use total body workouts. But over the course of your training split, make sure that you're doing equal volume for both sides so that you do build things in balance and proportion, because a common cause of joint pain is overworking one side and then underworking the other. So over time, you're pulling and developing an imbalance. How about you, Jeff? Like, have you had any major joint pain over the years, and anything that stood out?
I had some, like, a nagging kind of shoulder injury for a little while, but it's not like super debilitating or anything like that. But it's from what you were just saying, like doing an exercise, noticing it didn't feel right, doing it anyway, and then and then dealing with the repercussions of that for weeks and months afterwards.
Yeah.
Same thing with, like, okay, so my right knee too. Like I was doing hamstring curls one day, and for some reason it just didn't feel right, but I just kept doing it anyway. And it's not like it's like debilitating or anything, but it's just like, I notice it. It's there, and it's nothing like bad, or like where I can't use my lower body or anything, or can't do anything that has any kind of knee flexion, but I still notice it. So, and it's getting better over time. And the shoulder injury now, it feels a lot better because I've been doing a lot of rehab work for it, where I hardly notice it anymore. So, but you nailed it. It's like, it's always when you're doing something, it doesn't feel right, and your ego takes over, and you end up doing it anyway. And then, that's, for me at least, that's where my joint pain have always come from.
It's if you can detach from that ego, it's helpful. Now I know that's easier said than done, but you have to know when to throw in the towel, like when to just say, you know what, hey, I'm going to live to lift another day, and just either scrap the exercise, or if you have to, scrap the workout and just say, you know what, hey, I need to rest and just not put any more stress on this particular area that's hurting. Right. And it's weird sometimes. Like, you may, for some reason, it's just you're not firing on all cylinders. Like, sometimes you might just get some nagging aches or pains, and you just need to give it another day of rest, and it might feel fine. But if you don't, and you try and work through it, then you could take what could be like a little minor, ache or pain, and then actually turn it into a major injury. So you got to be very careful with that. But learning to detach and kind of having that third person perspective, almost like, hey, leave the ego out of this and just, if you need to rest.
Mm-hmm.
But it is easier said than done. I'll be honest. So, because we all have that tendency, like, oh no, I want to work out. I want to push myself. I mean, sometimes the best thing you can do is just nothing. Let it rest. We got Ryan's got a question here saying, if I'm doing a push workout, can I work the triceps less since they're getting worked in the chest and the shoulder workout? Being a smaller muscle group, I find I fatigue them fast. What do you think on this, Jeff? You're doing chest, shoulders, and triceps, and your triceps are fatiguing.
Well, when you're doing push workouts, I mean, you're going to be using your triceps because that's what pushes weight. I mean, that's a muscle group that pushes weight. But if you wanted to work your chest and not work your triceps as much, you could do some kind of exercise where you're bringing your arm across your body like a fly, and then you wouldn't be using your triceps as much. But like, I mean, if you do push-ups, like, or if you do any kind of pressing movement at all, like, I mean, your triceps are going to be engaged to a degree. So, and the more your elbows are, more your elbows are closer to your body, the more you're going to be using your triceps. The more you go wider out, you're going to be using more of your chest and feel more of a stretch in your chest. One exercise I really like for chest that I've been doing a lot lately, that I feel way more in my chest than my triceps, is deficit push-ups. So you know what those are?
Is that push-ups where you can actually go stretch further down, like you're?
So you can do what you can do. Yeah, so you can do them with like Olympic rings, or you can do them with plyo boxes. Plyo boxes, and then put your feet up on a bench, and then you can go really deep down and you get a big stretch in your chest, and then come out. So I find I can feel my chest a lot in that push-up variation than some of the other ones. And dips too.
You need to have good shoulder mobility for that too, obviously.
That's
the only downside to going through an extreme range of motion, is there's more strain on the shoulder there. But I mean, if it certainly can be done appropriately.
Well, I don't ego lift with it. So like, I don't use weight. You don't need weight. I just do body weight. Yeah. And I don't go to absolute failure on it either. So,
good.
Yeah. Cause you don't need to with that exercise. You're going to feel it.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, that's the only thing that you want to be cautious of, especially if anybody does have any pre-existing shoulder pain. But to really address Ryan's question there, I think, if you're find that your triceps are pumped after the chest and the shoulders, then you don't need to do as much for the triceps. And I'm actually putting together a new workout video. It's a video that I shot up at a new gym that I'm training at, Omega Health and Fitness. Well, I've actually been training there for several months now, but haven't really made any new workout videos there lately. So we're getting back into making some new workout videos, right? So there's a new series coming. It's going to be a push-pull legs training split. And I was actually working on the push workouts, the editing process of that. And how that workout is structured is we're doing more volume for the chest and the shoulders. And then the triceps, they're only really getting one isolation exercise at the end, because they're already pre-fatigued from the pushing work with the chest and the shoulder. So that's fine. If you were doing a push-pull legs type of split, and you wanted to get some more isolation in there for the arms, triceps and biceps, I would consider adding in an extra workout for them and doing them on their own day, instead of trying to do more tricep work on the push day or more bicep work on the pull day. Because again, you've already pre-fatigued them. So that's the way I do it. I mean, is I would do less volume. So that makes perfect sense. And you also need to look at what's your priority. If the arms are a priority and you want to build them up, then it's definitely consider having a separate day just for arms alone, where you can train them when they're fresh. All right, moving on. Dead Fish Lord. What are your suggested strategies for resolving strength asymmetries between the sides of the body? Wondering if extra sets would fatigue the weaker side too much. So what he's referring to here, I guess, is one arm is bigger than the other arm, one pec is bigger than the other pec, one leg's bigger than the other leg, something along those lines, right? Have you noticed this yourself, Jeff? You notice any imbalances between your left and right sides?
Yeah, I do actually. So in my legs, I have way more balance and way more internal rotation with my left leg than I do with my right leg.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, when I do like lunges or unilateral leg exercises, I find that my left leg is stronger than my right. So the way I work around it is I do my weaker limb first,
Mm-hmm.
and then with my stronger side, I don't do more reps than my weaker side can do with an attempt to balance them out.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like
And I do a lot of mobility work for my hips and stuff like that too, to try to fix that internal rotation. So, but actually, I recently read an interesting theory about this though. So it's very typical for, I guess, for people to have a right side internal rotation, like a limit than their left. And it's because when you drive, you ever notice like when you drive, like your leg is like that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like that. So and your left leg is more straight, right? So your right leg, if you do a lot of driving, does a lot of more external rotation than internal rotation. So as a result of that, a lot of people have that imbalance.
Makes sense. Yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting. So, but it's something I'm trying to correct in my workouts right now to try to balance them out.
Yeah, interesting. I never thought of that before, but I mean, you're right. Like you're literally holding that prolonged position with your foot on the gas pedal, especially like normal driving.
Mm-hmm.
If it was a race situation, there's a lot more foot movement involved, especially moving back and forth and braking and accelerating and heel toe shifting and all that. It's a bit different, but from a daily driver position, especially in a standard or an automatic car with no clutch, yeah, your right leg is doing all the work and the left one's just sitting there.
Yeah.
All right, so it makes sense. Yeah, but a lot of people have dominant sides. You're right-handed, or one leg is stronger than the other. A lot of times the left leg is the dominant leg for most people. Like if anyone follows skateboarding or snowboarding or surfing, if your left leg is your lead leg, they refer to that as regular foot. If you're the opposite, your right leg is the lead leg, it's goofy foot.
Right.
So most people are leading with their left leg, so that's normal. But having asymmetry, so like one side bigger and stronger than the other, virtually everybody has this to some degree. Now, in some people, it's more noticeable than others, but virtually everybody has it. Even top pros, like if you look at a picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger from his prime doing a front double bicep, his right arm is way bigger and more peaked than his left. Other guys you see, Jay Cutler, former Mr. Olympia, he had a big difference between his left and right sides. In fact, in Jay's case, I think the left was actually bigger than the right. I could be wrong on that, but I think I'm right. Even the leg and the arm, like you could see, one side of his body was noticeably bigger than the other. So if the best world-class elite level guys have imbalances, us mere mortals are going to have imbalances too. So it's something you kind of have to just accept. Now, with that being said, you can try and minimize it, but you'll probably never fully correct it. So the best way that I would recommend minimizing it is doing single limb exercises where you're hitting each side of the body independently. And like Jeff mentioned, if you are doing those single limb exercises, start with the weaker and then stop at the same volume for your stronger side. So like if you hit failure at 10 reps with your weak side, stop at 10 reps for your strong side. Even if you can do 12 or more, stop at 10. So that gives the weaker side a chance to catch up. Because if you keep pushing both sides to failure, then you're still going to just accelerate that imbalance even more. And if you do that over time, you'll minimize those imbalances to the point where it's pretty much on par. Like for most of my exercises now, I'm pretty much equal strength. Like if I were doing dumbbell curls, I'm going to hit failure pretty much the same with both arms. Or if I do single leg exercise, I'm pretty much going to hit failure the same. It may be a rep or two in the difference, but it's not major. But that's the big way. I wouldn't really recommend doing a whole lot of extra volume for the weaker side, unless you could try it and see. But generally speaking, I would try to just keep it equal volume for both sides. That's the way I usually recommend it for most people.
Mhm.
Start with that first anyway, and then if you want to go through a mini phase of prioritizing, you certainly can. But ultimately, we want to focus on just being consistent with both sides and train them with equal volume.
Mm.
How to stay consistent with the diet. All right.
Hey, Lee, I gotta get going, man. I gotta hit the
All right.
gig.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm going to get ready and clue this up too shortly. But thanks, Jeff. Appreciate you for jumping in and sharing your insights. I learned a few things today, so I got some value from it. And have yourself a good one.
Yeah, you too, man. Thanks again for having me. It's always a great time.
Yep, appreciate it. All right, take care, Jeff. See ya. All right, so I'm going to close her out on my own. Current news was asking about how to stay consistent with the diet. One thing we covered earlier, myself and Jeff touched on a question that was posted back. It was from Brian, which is kind of a similar question, but this is what I would recommend. Go back and watch the replay of where we cover Brian's question there about the mindset practices to keep yourself on track and disciplined for continued fat loss. That's the biggest one right there. And that would apply to current news's question of staying consistent with the diet. If you make that identity shift, as we mentioned to Brian's question, that would help with the consistency. And Ryan saying, thanks. Great advice as always. Some things for me to try. You're welcome. Glad to help. All right. Well, I'm going to clue this up as well. So hopefully you enjoyed the video chat. Hopefully you got some value from it. And the replay of this will be posted up afterwards, and I'll get the timestamps posted there as well. And if you do have any questions or feedback, or if there's anything that we covered here today that you want to elaborate on, feel free to reach out. You can email me. I have my email address down in the description below this video, or friend me up over on Facebook, and we can chat through there as well. I'm quite active over on Facebook. So if you're not friends with me over there yet, friend me up, and we'll stay in touch that way. But feel free to reach out. And if you do need any help with with your workouts, with your nutrition program, let me know. And in the meantime, have yourself a great weekend. And I just want to give you a quick heads up. Next week, there's not going to be a live video chat because I'm actually going to be out of town next week. So I'm not going to be able to do one of these live chats. So we're going to have a hiatus next week. But in 2 weeks' time, we will resume as normal and pick it up from there. So for the regulars who are watching in, you got next week off. Or you'll have to watch somebody else's YouTube video next week. All right, but we'll pick it up in 2 weeks' time. All right, guys, have yourself a good one, and I'll talk to you later. Take care. Over and out. Done deal.